Nothing's coming up yet.
Hi, good evening. Am I seeing people yet?
I'm not getting your watch party.
Yes, we are live. Hello. Hello. Kevin, just refresh the page.
Refresh?
Yep. Hello, everyone. Good evening. If you're around, just say hi to us while Kevin goes live on his site. I see Captain. I see Kala. Hi. Hope you all have had dinner. Let's
I'm
just
having.
give... Hi,
I
Dato.
haven't.
Kevin, you okay?
Don't have your watch party yet.
Can you just refresh the page?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still
You're
not
doing
coming up.
okay?
It's still not
I see
coming.
Kala. Hi. Hope you all have had dinner. Let's
I'm
just
having.
give... Hi,
I
Dato.
haven't.
So whoever who's watching us, just
Don't
give
have
us...
your watch party yet.
Can you just refresh the page?
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching us, just give us a few seconds while we sort out our
Yeah, it's still not
technological
coming.
issues.
Can you see me now?
Hi. Hope you all have had dinner. Let's
I'm
just give...
having.
I definitely can see you. Hi,
I
Dato.
haven't.
So whoever who's watching us, just
Don't
give
have
us...
your watch party yet.
Can you just refresh the page? Hi, Jega. For those of you who are watching us, just give us a few seconds while we sort out our technological issues.
Can you see me now?
I definitely can see you, Kevin. I definitely can see you. All right, Kevin. While you... Are you good to go? Kevin, you good to go? Hi, Kevin. Are you good to go? Watching us, just give us... Hi, Jega. For those of you who are... Kevin, are you okay? Can we go on?
I'm here, but I'm not sure what's happening. I'm
All right.
frozen.
It's okay. You are definitely live with me right now, but let's just start our show. So hello, everyone.
Hello,
Good evening.
everyone.
This is Bavani Periasamy from Malaysia, and I have with me Kevin Cottam from Singapore. Now, Kevin is a global nomad, professional keynote speaker, author, and executive coach, and he's the author of this book, The Nomadic Mindset. Grab one of this, is awesome. So why do I have Kevin here today is because I would like to ask him a few questions on gratitude. If you have heard our podcast just released a few days ago, you would have heard that we spoke a lot about gratitude, and there were stories that Kevin shared that really caught my attention, and that's why we're doing this follow-up. So for those of you who are online, can I just ask if you can, while we continue our session, do share with us your gratitude stories, because that's the whole purpose of this session. So Kevin, in our conversation, you shared about this homeless boy. You said that gratitude helped him. Can you share how did he persevere and how actually gratitude helped this homeless boy? Kevin? Kevin, can you hear me? Kevin, can you hear me?
Can.
All right. You heard my question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I heard your question. And can you hear me is the question.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, yeah, the homeless boy, his name, yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure what the problem is, though.
It's okay. Let's just have our conversation.
I can hear you. Yes. So, but okay. Yes.
Kevin?
So, all right. So, Kalenga,
Kevin, are you there?
I am here. I am here, but I'm not sure the reason this problem is existing.
It's okay. Just answer the question. It's okay. They can hear you.
Okay. Kalenga is his name, and he's from Namibia. And
Okay.
his challenge was that he grew up very early in his life. At the age of 7, he became homeless. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry about this, everyone, but Kalenga.
Okay, Kevin, maybe then just close the Facebook page. Then I think you can hear me easier. I think you're hearing me double right now.
So Kalenga, when he was 7 years old, he was orphaned.
Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. Just bear with us while we sort out our volume issue.
Hi, I can hear you from here, from SteamYard. Is that what you said to close this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Let's
so
just
I'm
continue
here.
from here. Yep.
All right. Okay, so with the yes, let me start again with Kalenga. Kalenga is a marvelous fellow. He's 27 years old now. When he was 27 years old, he became an orphan. He was in a car accident with his family, and they were killed. During that period, after that, his family would not take him in. And so he ended up being on the street. And for 4 years, until he was 11 years old, he was on the street. And then an old lady said, "You should not be begging on the street and eating from dustbins. You need to be in school." So she was very wonderful in the sense that she took him in against her family's wishes, but she felt for this boy. And when he started school, and he started school at 11 years old with 5-year-olds. Can you imagine what that must be like at 11? Somebody that's been on the street has grown up and learned an awful lot of things, and with 5-year-olds. It became a real problem for him. The lady passed away, and then he was taken elsewhere. He moved in with some other teachers that helped him with books and things like that. And he ended up graduating ultimately from high school. But during that period, he tried to commit suicide twice and failed. And then he got himself into university, and he was studying for his bachelor's, and he's just graduated. So next month he will graduate with honors, actually. And he did it really all in 2 years, because the first 2 years he was living in a prison. Can you believe it? A friend offered him a space free in a prison to stay. And for that, he had to walk 3 hours every day to his classes at university, in the morning and in the evening. So that's 6 hours. But during this whole time, he realized that he was incredibly grateful. Not only grateful for the food that the people that put in the dustbins, but he was grateful for having a life and to be saved from his life. but he just is now grateful for having other people in his life, but at the same time that he's been able to graduate. So now he is moving towards his master's degree, and he has been accepted by a variety of universities in Germany and in England. But the story is so rich in the sense that this boy has got so much love in his heart. After all of this that he's been through, he sees life as a gift, and he says, never give up. And I just think that's an amazing story. There's lots of these stories in Africa and also elsewhere in the world, but I happened to come across one that really touched my heart. And I have to say that it has shifted in many ways the way I see life. It's also shifted the way, in these short few weeks, how I see and feel what we're also going through now. And most of us, and I'm very grateful, and actually grateful for this time, because I think it's an important time that we can all not reflect, but new-flect, or become new again. And to be grateful not only for all of the stuff that's in our life, but to see it from a bigger and broader picture. And I think that's one thing that Kalenga, who is from a tribe called the Oshawanga, and they're the largest tribe in Namibia. But to see nomadic cultures and to spend time with them, how grateful and so happy they are, even though they have very little.
Kevin, at this point, I would like to ask you this, because you mentioned to me that this boy, Kalinga, he actually at some point wanted to commit suicide because things were very, very difficult for him. Do you have any insights how exactly he used gratitude to help himself? Is it something he did, something he practiced?
I believe that it's not necessarily something he practiced, but if you can see observing and experiencing these things, that at some point in his life, he began to realize, even after the suicide attempts, that there was definitely a reason for his life. And so he was very grateful that these things did not end his life, because he realized in a bigger picture that life is a gift. And so that gave him that gratefulness. And he whenever we would talk, he would always say he's so grateful. And he constantly says, thank you. And every time we talk, he says, thank you. And to me, thank you is a very big sign of gratitude. And by practicing it on an ongoing basis, it changes the energy in your body. And I think it changes the way you see life. I know people that don't say thank you, and I have to say that I think they're missing something.
Thanks, Kevin. To my friends who have just joined, welcome, and do share your gratitude stories so that all of us can actually appreciate life more and more, especially at times like this. So, Kevin, I would like to ask you another question, because I know you're a global nomad, you travel, you meet a lot of people, and you go to parts that I've never heard of. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So, visiting these nomadic tribes and meeting them, living with them as well, can you share a little bit how do they live life with an attitude of gratitude? And adding on to that, how can we actually apply this in our life? Not necessarily right now, but at any point of our life, how can we actually apply this?
There's lots of stories that you notice that the application. And I would say that the first one is the smiling and the happiness that happens with all of them. Is that when I was with the San, which are the Bushmen and probably the oldest of the nomadic tribes in the world, and they originated about 200,000 years ago, and the first people in Africa, from what I understand, is that when I was with them for a very short time, that every time they would speak with a smile on their face on an ongoing basis, and then they would laugh. And that is one way of them giving gratitude, is that. So remember that people that are nomadic cultures often live on the survival line. So if there's a drought, that means in the pastoralist communities is that their animals will not be able to feed properly. And so they may lose animals. But they're very grateful when the rain appears. Like this year in Namibia, the rain was crazy. In Kenya, the Maasai kept telling me, it's so crazy. The bridges are washed out, but we're so happy for the rain. Things like that give you the gratitude that we say, oh my God, it's raining outside, it's pouring. No, we realize that it actually is something very beautiful and it's there for a reason. And the smallest things in life, I think we have to look at them all individually as they do and give gratitude. Their life is full of gratitude, I would say. Just watching them, observing them, listening to them, that they're grateful for somebody to have a long conversation with them, for example, and ask great questions. Like, for example, the medicine man who I sat with, so for 2 full days, asking him questions. And he was, at the end, he said, I was so happy you asked me so many questions and so grateful. And just recently, one of the people from the Maasai village that I was at in 2017, I used to play with the children and spend a lot of time with them because they're just so beautiful, and they would laugh and run around, and they were just grateful for that. But I asked them questions and things like that. And just recently, someone said to me, the children are asking you and grateful that you asked so many questions and that you came and played with them. Simple things like that are pretty amazing, but we don't ever really think on a big scale about that. We have other thoughts in our lives that are going on, but we need to take it to the actual essence of what the gratefulness is. Even having, for example, when I would walk around I used to do this tradition, is that I would find a rock wherever I could be, whether it was in somewhere near the Sahara, or if it was in the Maasai land, or if it was in Namibia. I would pick up some rocks from the land. And I'm just so grateful for those rocks because they actually give me memory, but they also give me energy and thought about what is important in life. And what can you have as importance for in a rock? But a rock is full of the earth, and it is made from. And so I'm very grateful for that, to have those experiences all around the world. And I am sure that many, many people are grateful for all sorts of things. We have them in our lives, but we also, the problem is that we have too many things, that we actually don't spend enough time to be grateful for each one of them. And each person is what I would say. So practicing thank you is even a start.
Wow. I kind of got a little speechless for a moment. Thanks, Kevin, for sharing that. I remember when we met up somewhere last year, we spoke about the topic on mindfulness, and we spoke about how do we unplug ourselves, because the daily routine gets us, onto the zone of, working, in my case, training, coaching, speaking, but we get into the mood of, the rush hour of the day. I know you asked me this question, so I'm going to ask you this question again. How do we unplug? How do we take that moment to go into that state of mindfulness?
It's a great question, Bavani, and I'm sure that everybody that's online and watching has an awful lot of questions and answers to that. I would say that we need practices because we're kind of the type of people is that we need practices to be able to make something happen. And as far as mindfulness is concerned, Deepak Chopra, he doesn't really like the word necessarily mindfulness. He likes the word awareness. And mindfulness is about a deeper awareness of our inner being, but also of awareness of everything. And what I would say with nomadic cultures, for example, on this one subject, is that they are interconnected beings. And what do I mean by that? They are interconnected not only with themselves, they're with others, with the land, with the animals, with the universe, with the weather, with the temperature. Everything is interconnected for them. Nothing is separate because everything plays a role in the way we're supposed to live and exist. So I learned an awful lot from that just by observation. So in other words, observation is an incredible thing that we can help us as a tool, is to observe. Often when I'm in trainings, I will ask them, what did you see this morning, the first thing that you got on the bus or when you came to this? And many people would have a very hard time to say what they saw. And some would. But also it's a sense of listening. So the nomadic cultures, and which we can all do, are able to be still, alert, listen, and observe all at the same time. So I practice meditation in the morning, and that's one wonderful practice that we can all have, and maybe chant from time to time. But all of these things take us inward and take us to a settling place, because we need to settle into the base. So the breathing is extremely important, is a great practice for us to connect to just our breath, which connects to our heart, which connects to the rest of our physical being, which then connects to the external environment that we exist in and the people. That's a practice I think is extremely important, is to understand our breath. And meditation is very important for that breath because they're all interconnected, right? And then I journal, I read, I walk, I observe, I say thank you every day that I'm on the bus to the driver. And I say, how are you? And I say thank you when I get off. So I think there's multitudes of that we can all learn to be mindful or more aware. But this is a fantastic time because I'm just really relishing in it, because there's no pressure of time. It feels like we're floating in time. And I don't know about you, Bavani, but I just feel like I'm just floating in it. Well, and I go, oh my God, I'm getting up at 10. Oh, but then my day is extended until like 2 in the morning. And then I'm just doing things on a very different flow than I would. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I've got a training starting at 9 until 5. And then I've got to come home and I've got to prepare, blah, blah, blah. I'm loving this.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, out of curiosity, you mentioned the word chant. What do you chant? Is it something very spiritual? Or
yeah, I follow an Indian tradition called Siddha Yoga. And we have a variety of chants which are supposed to take you deeper inside. And so it's the energy and the rhythm of the words and also the chant itself, which actually takes you to a deeper space.
What was this chant again?
Oh, there's many different chants. Okay. And it depends on the ragas which are the different sounds and also the different rhythms and the different tonalities. So those are, and I chant them to music. So in other words, I sing along. So I'm chanting at the same time with the recorded chants. but I love doing
Okay.
it.
I got lots to catch up to get to your pace. Kevin, we have a question from Captain Ariva.
Captain.
Yes, our good friend in LinkedIn. So Captain is asking this: how do you switch your mind towards gratefulness when you are in the moment of despair, especially when the feeling of despair is so strong that it drags you towards negativity?
Which is a very common thought. And exactly, it's something that we're in our makeup that we end up doing because it's our natural default system is to go to the negative instead of to the positive. We default there very easily. It's much easier. So how do you get around it is the question. Meditation is a way of doing it. So, for example, if I go into a negative state, I go into my breathing. And when I go into my breathing, then it starts to open and expand, not only myself inside, but everything else. And I make a point. So in other words, that I breathe into the point of the center of the breath. And then I just keep watching it and watching it and watching it. And it starts to fill you up with a lot more energy and positive energy simply because it calms you down. But the secret is you must breathe deeply into your belly. The belly is where you will get balanced. If you think about it, I was a dancer once upon a time back in the dark ages, and I was a contemporary dancer, and always in dance or in other lots of physical activities. I was also a figure skater, and we always talk about the center. The center of the body is just a slight below the belly button. And that is where you want to start breathing into, because that's what holds you in your balance. And then it goes to your legs and then up and through you. But if you practice breathing to that space, it opens you up more and it takes you away from the negative thought. But remember, it takes practice. It doesn't happen just overnight. Nothing does. I'm sorry to say. It takes sometimes a lifetime for some people. But the point is, if you have these different, we might call interventions of being able to do that. And also, for example, people will take walks, in beautiful nature. And that disconnects you from that negative, and you go, my God, that bird is so beautiful, or that tree is so gorgeous. And look at the roots. I mean, the roots are just like amazing. What is nature able to do for us? And to be grateful for that, you need something to shift you and to break you. And we all have those different ways and means, Captain. Hopefully that was helpful to you.
Okay, Kevin, I have a question for you now. As much as I would love to do all of that, but I think I would need to be at my home in the luxury of my room to be able to experience all of that. Let's say I'm in a meeting, or I'm with people, and I'm going downhill. Split second. What is it that something that I could do to do that shift? Because I don't have the luxury. I mean, if you're in KL, to walk out and find the roots and the birds, a little impossible. So split second, if I'm in a very tense situation, what is it that I could do?
First of all, what I share with a lot of my clients is that if you're in a meeting, keep your feet flat on the floor.
Okay.
Because once your feet are flat on the floor, and so they're not crossed, they're not, usually they're under a table, but put them flat on the floor in parallel position, not turned out, whichever, parallel, because now they are rooted to the earth. And the root to the earth that sends your energy up and balances you all the way through, plus the breathing. And what I would suggest is that people put their hands like this at their belly. If you're just sitting there, just put them across and just breathe into that area, and that's into the stomach, so that can help you to remember that I'm breathing into my belly. But it takes practice, like everything.
I'm going to start doing that. So Whoever watches now will know what I'm doing the next time they see me. But yes, because that's the reality of our day-to-day life, because we really don't have that luxury to take that time off to go and meditate, um, switch off environment. We just don't have that luxury. So it's just little steps that help us. To the rest of the viewers, if you have any questions, please keep them coming, and Kevin will help to answer them.
You know, the other thing on that front as well, with regards to sitting there, is that one of the pieces to do is to also practice being the voyeur. So in other words, with all of the sound and all the cacophony that may be going around you, is to keep your feet flat on the floor, sit upright, sit up tall, so don't sit into the back of the chair, put your hands there, and to just feel as if you are not really in the room, but you're watching from outside the room. And you're just listening and observing what's going on. And just breathe into that, because that is very helpful. Because now you're disconnecting from them, but they're still there and connecting, but you're taking a expansive view. As what I would say is part of the meaning of what I was told in Mongolia by Bendaria, a student at the University of Mongolia. She said, nomads, think vastly and act narrowly. So in other words, if you're sitting there, think very vastly, and then when it's your moment to speak, focus in immediately.
Okay, Kevin, I have a very interesting situation here. I've got a friend who sent me a personal message and asked me this: Bavani, what is the proper way of breathing?
Okay. We need to go into a practice. Okay.
I know we started off with gratitude, but that's the question that came.
You know, gratitude is the first thing, is about breath and our breathing. What we talked about, Bavani, is that breathing is extremely important, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. Otherwise, remember, everyone, if we're not breathing, we're not alive.
Yeah, true.
It's as simple as that. But
and we take that for granted sometimes.
Yeah. So one of the things is that most people breathe from their upper chest, and it's very shallow breathing, and then you get very tired very quickly. And so breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. Some people say breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Some people say breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose. There are different ways. What I like to do is breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, because then I have a focus on one anatomical part where it's going in and out of. So if you think of it as coming in, you have to watch it come in. So in other words, internally, you start watching and sensing it come in as low into your belly as possible. Now, it's never very fashionable to stick your belly out, but here you can do that because you're allowed to breathe in and let the belly go out, and then breathe the belly out so that the belly goes against the spine and then comes out. Because what you're wanting to do is to feel as low as possible, and that's where your calm starts to happen. If you just need to think about it, in actual fact, that if you start breathing very shallowly from the top, you don't breathe very well and you get exhausted very fast. Do any of you know the Michelin Man, the Michelin Man, the tires, the three tires? So I think about the three tires as the upper torso is one tire, the diaphragm is another tire, and then of course we all know the tire around our waist. So that's a tire. But you think of these three tires and three different areas to breathe into practicing. And what I will do, with ask people is to put their hands on their ribs and help them to breathe out, not forward and back, but out, so that you expand. So there's one breathing from the in here to the top, one to the ribs, and one to the belly. I don't know if that helps you. But those are three ways of three areas of breathing, and one way of breathing is in through the nose, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the mouth. What some people will do, but it's about focusing on the breath coming in and out, watching it.
So, Kevin, I'm just going to do a recap for those who have just joined us. They may be wondering why we're talking about breathing when the topic is gratitude. So, Kevin was just sharing how the whole process of gratitude, mindfulness is also breathing is actually part of it. You can watch this later again to actually make sense of what was happening before this. Kevin, there's one other aspect of gratitude that I would like to speak about. You know, we take our moments to say thank you. We take our moments to journal. But this is something that I think sometimes gets missed out. Not always, but sometimes. The gratitude towards people, showing people the appreciation. Because we got to remember that for us to be thankful of something, there's always a person behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in my journey, I always share this on LinkedIn. Be grateful, but also always remember to thank the person. I'm not going to ask you what are your thoughts on this because it's very obvious, but how do we always remind ourselves to keep doing it? I know to a certain extent I do forget that at times, but I try to be mindful of the fact and try and thank people as much as I can. But how can we make it a practice to remember to thank people besides being grateful on our own?
Well, I think that what I've noticed in a variety of different parts of the world is that sometimes cultures don't say thank you very much, that they will just spit stuff out. And that's part of culture, I think. And I was never brought up that way. I was always brought up to mind your P's and Q's, so to speak, is what it's called, because I had British parents. But it was always to thank someone. There's a couple of stories around this, I think, that are interesting. Is that I was working on a TV special as a choreographer once for CBC, and the producer was Canadian, but he was living in Hollywood. And when we would have conversations and somebody was saying something to me or to someone else or whichever, I would say thank you. But he would always answer thank you. And I was getting really perturbed and thinking, why are you saying thank you? And I asked him once, why are you always doing that? You know, it's not meant for you. It was me, the comment, or someone else. And he says, when I went to Los Angeles, I was told to, what anybody says or gives anybody a compliment, you just say thank you, whether you like it or not. It's not directed at you, just say thank you. And I thought, that was a bit odd at the time. But now I think back and I think it's a great practice, to tell you the truth. In Canada, what I notice an awful lot, which is very unusual, is that when I'm in the bus, for example, is that everyone gets on. I have to say almost I can't remember somebody not getting on, and they all say, "Hi, driver, how are you doing today?" And then when they get off, if they're at the very back of the bus and like this extended buses, they'll yell, "Thank you, driver." And so, because there is this reference that person gave you a ride, and so you're grateful for that. When I first came to Singapore, you know, they have this whole thing around happiness and this happiness, you know, departments and governments, which I can never understand, that we're having to create happiness on an ongoing basis. And that is gratitude. But there was one thing that bothered me, and that was the bus. And that was that I would first get on the bus, and I realized that I get on, tap, and go stand. But what I watched everybody get on. And I thought, everybody's tapping, but no one actually looked at the driver to see if there was actually a driver in the seat. And I looked around at people, and I just thought, there's no emotion about any of this. And so anyway, I thought, I'm going to start something different. So anyway, what I did was I started to tap, and then I'd say, "Hello, how are you today?" And some of them don't speak English, but anyway, they would sort of look at me as like, What's he talking about? But then it started off, and then I would say thank you. And the thing is that the people that were regular, they would stop for me and wait for me for the bus because I came on, and I would have a brief conversation. It was appreciation of that person being there. For me, it's about seeing everyone. It doesn't matter who we are, it's seeing people. Everybody wants to be seen. And that we can be grateful for. Good, bad, or indifferent, if you don't like them or whatever. I mean, you have problems with them, but you need to be grateful for all the people that are put in our way and say thank you for it. And just say thank you. I think I told you the story about the Bushmen, how they say thank you.
Well,
So,
you can try it one more time over here.
yeah, okay. So the Bushmen, we always, they were saying thank you. So at the very end of the day, when they'd say goodbye or whichever, they'd say, Miwiya! Miwiya! I went, what does that mean? And then they'd say, Gotcha! And they would laugh and whatever. But they would say, miwi ah. So miwi ah. So mi, we ah. So if I'm saying to you, if I'm saying to everybody that's online now, I would say miwi e. So it's plural in that sense. But what am I saying here? I as in we. So think of it as the whole, and I am within the we. So I am with everyone. So the point is that we're not alone. We need to thank everyone and everything that's around us. And that's what they do. They see the beauty in everything. And Gaja is just the accent of like, great. So they would say, Miwiya, Gaja. And so,
I would be surprised if I heard that in a random place or a random conversation.
yeah, well, you don't have to do it on the street in Malaysia. It's okay. But I mean, the point is just that I think it's very beautiful, their word for thank you, because it stimulated this thought in me is that I, me, and we in our languages, in English, are two different words, but for them combining them, it makes this beautiful combination of the whole. And it means thank you. Bavani, you've gone.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
I
Can you hear me?
are you back? Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Yes,
I am not sure whether I am back on live.
I can see you. It says live.
I'm just trying to make sure I am back on Facebook Live, and I'm not too sure of that.
Uh-huh.
Kevin, I'm back again. I'm so
Oh.
sorry. Okay, I was told that I am back online. Sorry, Kevin, I missed the last part of what you said.
Good question. What was it that I said? I don't remember now. We got cut off. So, no, I can't remember exactly, Bavani, but I think that it was, I kept on going. So sorry.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm just full of technological challenges today, but nevertheless, I'm so grateful I'm able to come back. Kevin, let's just wrap up our session, and let's wrap up with this question that I have for you. You have traveled, you've been to many parts of the world. If there's one thing that we can do on a daily basis, and that goes for all of our viewers here today, what is it that we can do on a daily basis to live in a mode of gratitude at all times?
That's a
Few
great
tips from
question.
you.
A few tips. Grateful. So I think the first thing that we need to be grateful for is ourselves. We start from ourselves, and to know that, and it come back to what I've been talking about, is the breathing, is to be able to wake up in the morning and to be able to do your reflections and your gratitudes. This is another thing that you do and I do, is about saying what you're grateful for. At the very end of my night, before I go to sleep, I actually put myself to sleep with actually talking about what I'm grateful for. So that's one thing that can help you, is to really identify what you're grateful for. The other is to really focus in on your breathing. The third one is to be able to observe and listen. So two things in that is to observe and listen as much as it's going around you. Almost feel as if things are in slow motion. At the moment, things are in slow motion, and try to find, what does that feel like, sense like? So we need to be able to inner sense, become sensorial about our whole existence. Most people are not very sense conscious. And so consequently, doing that by saying, I smell, what do I smell? What do I taste? Be grateful for those types of things. Then you start to sense why you are there in the existence. So all the six senses, think about the intuition as the sixth one, that's extremely important. This will help you to become much more interconnected individuals, and will start pulling us back to which is our nomadic being, which is living within every single one of us, is that nomadism, which is movement. And movement is what we are about as human beings and the universe. Energy is all movement. Focus on everything that gives movement and watch it, feel it, smell it, taste it, whatever. And that means the movement of your mind as well, which is the nomadic mindset, which is connected to your heart. So say gratitude wherever you can. Slow yourself down so that you can observe and feel it. And that is easier now that we're locked in, and more harder when we start getting into the craze again. But I suggest, and I would like to invite everyone, is to change your lives now, because this is the practice that we're going to need for the future. We've got ourselves, this is our time of opportunity I'm sure you believe that as well, Bavani.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Kevin, for spending an hour talking about gratitude. We've come to an end of our session, and please do keep sharing your stories of gratitude. And the session is about the gratefulness contagion. So let's start from where we are. Let's continue saying thank you. And I think it's a ripple effect. The more we say thank you and appreciate people, the people around us will also be doing that to the people in their life. So let's do, and let's start right now. We don't have to wait for anything to start on that. And especially at times like this, when things could be a little uncertain what's going to happen, there is a lot of things that we find to be grateful for. We have so much with us that we sometimes take for granted, where some people don't even have anything that we have. So with that, I would like to end. Thank you everyone for being with us. My apologies for all the challenges that I faced today. But thank you, and let's keep spreading gratitude. Thank you guys. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much, Bavani. And yes, we can be grateful for all of the mishaps of technology.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.